From the newsroom to the answer engine, why credibility is marketing's new competitive advantage. That's a big question. Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Garsten, and welcome to episode 145 of Tales from the Beat, where we look at news and PR from both sides of the scrimmage line. And to help answer that head scratcher and a lot more is my guest, Parton Pate. Hey, Robin.
Good morning. How are you, Ed?
Good. How are you? It's great to see you again. Robin's Vice President of Marketing at the Dave Cantin Group, and we'll explain that momentarily. And also, happy to say, a fellow CNN alumnus. And she's got more than 2 decades of experience across media, technology, and business strategy. And if you caught the middle part of her name, she just might be related to somebody kind of famous, which we'll try to explain later too. So, Robin, great to see you again. It's been, let's see, I think the last time I saw you was at the Automotive News World Congress a couple of years ago here in Detroit. And it was good to talk to you then for a story and one of your coworkers as well. So why don't we start with maybe just explain to folks what Dave Cantin Group is and a little bit more about your background.
Absolutely. Dave Cantin Group is an automotive M&A advisory company. We work with the top U.S. automotive brands and to advise them on mergers, acquisitions, and other strategic advisory to help them maximize their platforms.
Yeah, and also you should add that um, Dave Cantin Group, yourself and your colleagues, for us reporters, we trust you for really expert analysis and insight when we're covering the auto industry. So very valuable stuff. I mean, you always have great data and insight. So as we're tackling this bigger question that we set off in the background, how does why don't you start with the role that you and your colleagues play for the media in sort of helping us tell the stories with insight and perspective from your point of view?
Absolutely. So one of the things that's really important at Dave Cantin Group is as we're advising, we have to be experts ourselves. So we have to conduct research, we have to understand research, and we have to understand the business and understand how to tie that research into business implications. So as we're advising, we're able to pull out forward-thinking insights and actionable information for people. And by doing that, that helps us advise them. One of the ways we do that is by working with credible people such as yourself so that we can help get the word out there in terms of what the insights are. And people like you, Ed, can pull out some of those interesting nuggets based
Yeah.
on what you're seeing, what else you're writing about, and understanding really the entire automotive ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff that I've talked to you and I've talked to your colleagues over the years is so valuable in helping us uh, create actually more credible stories because it's not, just for us to say things. The third party input, of course, is so important to almost any news story. But why, Robin? Why do you suppose in this time of AI and where we're not always sure if things are actually accurate, that insight such as yours and your colleagues is even more important now than ever?
Oh, absolutely. The credibility is increasingly important. So LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude and many of the other resources we have available can give us information fast, but the accuracy is still lacking. So it's still really important to have that first party validation because as a journalist, Ed, you know what you're doing. You know the questions to ask. You know you can't just put every press release into a story. You have to make sure it is valid, it's credible, it's from a resource you trust and it's information that your users and your readers are going to want to read. And so we have those relationships with you all so that we can have that first party validation with credible data and insights. And also this is important because as we're looking at the information people are searching for, they're going to be searching for the LLMs and the work you're doing and our PR
Yeah.
teams is
Yeah.
increasingly important. So we couldn't do it without you. So thank you so much.
Well, we couldn't do without you either. So we have a symbiotic relationship, don't we? I mean, we each need each other to help each other do our jobs even a little bit better, and certainly appreciate that. And it's interesting, Robin, is that I was talking with someone yesterday about AI and how it's almost become incestuous because, right, we create content and people search for things on AI, and then AI finds the content that's created, and after a while, it's just going to start finding content that it's already found before. And but what I was interested in, I didn't mean to get off the subject, but have you ever seen, and maybe not, but have you ever seen any of your comments or any of your insight or anything from your company sort of show up in an AI search where maybe you didn't expect that, where it's like, oh, okay, they're finding what we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And one, it's incredibly exciting just to see, okay, we're made it. Back in the day, you wanted to be on the first page of Google, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Now you want to be able to answer the questions for the LLMs and make sure that you are first and top of mind. So it's a push and pull strategy on our part. So we do look
yeah,
at, we want to be served as the answer to these
mm,
credible questions. We
yeah,
also want to double check it and push things that it will answer. So we're starting to be more strategic about some of the content we will put out there just to make sure we're serving the needs of the users and making sure that it is current and how we want our brand portrayed.
yeah,
Sometimes we will ask these LLMs, what is our brand? Who are the people that our company is working with? What
yeah.
trends are you seeing? Just to see on different LLMs and in different setups how we're looking in terms of credibility on the platforms.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I know from a reporter's point of view, when we're writing things now, we have to change the way we write our headlines and our leads so that our stories are found, right? They're actually answering questions that people are asking the AI tools about. So, from your standpoint, then how has AI really changed the way content is created? And then from that standpoint, once you get further into your relationships with the media and getting your brand discovered.
Absolutely. So we never publish what AI writes. We use AI as a tool. So
Okay.
AI can do 80% of the first lift. So it can do a first draft, it can do outlines, headlines,
Yeah.
social variations, a lot of things like this. It can do quick research,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have the credibility. It doesn't have the fact checking ability. So we use it to help us save time for 10 ideas for creative headlines, for things like that. And also just to fact check to see, is this the right way to put something out there in terms of the messaging, in terms of credible research that's out there, anything new and different that people might be writing about, just to see if there are other trends. So we do use
Yeah.
it as a tool, but it is not the only tool. We have to add in the human element. We have to add in experience, judgment, personalities.
Yeah.
Back in my CNN days, I know we always had a stat and a story, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing has changed there. We still use a lot of stats and we use a lot of stories just to make sure we relate to people and they understand exactly what we're telling with our market intelligence. And that helps us working with you all,
Yeah.
journalists, just because you guys are looking for the story.
Yes.
We're not here to tell stories, we're here to provide information for you,
Yeah.
but we're trying to make sure that it is a symbiotic relationship so that we can share those stories together for the industry.
I mean, doesn't it drive you crazy, Robin, when you're searching for information, and whether it's to inform your analysis of a situation or just for your own personal use, that the first thing that comes up now is the AI summary and not the source of the information. And what I always wonder is, I mean, how dangerous is that? Because most people are just going to take the easy way out. I mean, I don't mean to be, cynical about it, but people are, right? They go, "Oh, cool! I got this little answer here at the top. It's a summary, and I'm going to take that as the gospel." When they don't bother to go further down and actually find the source of the material and double check it. I mean, does that drive you crazy? And then, if it does, then what's the best defense against that?
It does drive me crazy,
Yeah,
especially if there's an error. So,
yeah,
especially if there's something cited that's not exactly true or it's citing old
yeah,
data that's been updated, it just
yeah.
makes me nuts. So, what we do to mitigate it is we look at what are the sources that it's citing just to see, okay, can we update the source? Is it on our end
Yeah.
or is it a different resource that we can have updated? Sometimes we can't update it. So, if it's something that's published in a
Mhm.
national news publication, we can always update those, but we can
Yeah.
use the information to update our website and look at other ways that we can
Sure.
increase the credibility of the
Yeah.
LLM options.
Yeah, it's funny. I was researching buying a guitar, all right,
Okay.
a new guitar, and so I looked up to, I wanted to get some reviews on and some insight on it, and the first thing that pops up, and it's giving me all this information about this particular guitar until I find out that the summary that popped up was actually 3 years old. And the company had revised the guitar twice since then and improved it, and that wasn't reflected in my results. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't take it any further. So that's just, one example of how people can be led astray by simply relying on the AI summary that they get and get the wrong information. So, I mean, that's just a real life thing. So you mentioned CNN a couple times. Mentioned what did you do at CNN, and then we'll talk about how that news organization, which is so unique, sort of affected what we've learned about news.
Okay. So when I was at CNN, I was a senior research analyst, which means
Okay.
I worked with many different departments in CNN in order to analyze ratings, primary and secondary
Wow.
research sources. So worked with Nielsen ratings a lot. I was a heavy user of the research. We worked with talent in order
Yeah.
and executives on talent contracts. We worked with programming to give them insights about the programming. We worked with PR to help
Hmm.
them with the PR stories that were relevant at that time.
Yeah.
And we worked with marketing just to make sure we were utilizing the right marketing strategies in place. So I worked at Turner Broadcasting 4.5 years,
Okay.
absolutely loved it. Atlanta
Yeah.
is an awesome place to live and work.
Yeah.
And so I worked in research there again 4.5 years, and then moved to Knoxville, Tennessee to work for Home and Garden TV.
Oh, okay.
And when I began at Home and Garden TV, I was recruited to come up and work in research. So
Okay.
again, market research, but
Yeah.
then moved on to be VP of programming and work in several other departments. I was there for 10 years.
Wow. Okay. Wow. What a great career. When you talk about ratings, especially when well, it could be something like CNN or even something like I was thinking about the Weather Channel, where people tend to tune in when there's a big story, but they don't really tune in when there's not a big story. And I remember in the room at CNN Center where we had our editorial meetings when I worked there, oh gosh, I was in Atlanta from 81 to 89 before I was transferred up here to Detroit. And they had this big chart on the wall, and they call it the EKG, and it was really the rating spikes. And when there was a big breaking story like the two Gulf Wars and the Challenger explosion, you get a spike in the ratings, and then otherwise it sort of flatlines. I mean, what when you were reviewing the ratings, is that what you found? And was there any suggestions of how I know they were always driving themselves crazy about how do you get how do you get more people engaged in the news when there isn't a breaking story?
You're absolutely right. Live news drives live news viewing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's as simple as that. But we did work to have more, not entertainment-based programming, but more that was educational, informational, beyond the live news, not sensational stories, but the peak interest stories. So that's where
Mhm.
they would do CEO interviews and they would do more of the interviews that they had on the ready for live breaking
Yeah.
news, but then also just to educate the audience in between those live news sessions. And I was there actually when 9/11 happened. So
Oh,
we
okay.
we had obviously the biorhythm that we called it had a huge spike then, but it
Yeah,
was ongoing at that time. And the way that the news team covered it with all the different angles was incredible. So we did see obviously a huge uptick at that time,
right.
but we were always looking at ways to work with programming to tell the stories that needed to be told while
Hmm.
also maintaining journalistic integrity.
Sure, sure. And it's so different now because um, how many years ago where news programming was based on pieces from the reporter from the field and news coverage, and now it's like the Brady Bunch. There's 800 boxes on the screen of people just talking at each other, and I wonder how that's affecting the ratings. I think not too well. But on a bigger picture, Robin, how, from CNN, the time you CNN, and maybe the other places you work, what did you learn about, finding where the real story is, and then really how what you learned from that kind of affects what you've done after that?
Absolutely. Well, credibility matters. And no
Yeah.
matter what the industry is, credibility matters to the journalist, to the audience, and to all the people in the ecosystem who care about the brand or the business. So
Yeah.
that credibility is key to maintain. And with AI, it's increasingly important just because humans connect to humans. So they need to feel like it's a human-centric, correct message. They need to feel like it's accurate. So if you're searching for a guitar, you're going to trust the LLM less if you're
Yeah.
getting inaccurate 3-year-old data. So
Right.
we've always worked to make sure, no matter what company I'm in, to make sure that market intelligence is correct, it's credible, it has multiple sources, and that there are usually third-party validators validating
Yeah.
these intelligence reports before they go out.
And how much then does that help you? I know that at times we're pitched stories that say involve research that Dave Cantin Group has done and might be useful as a story or part of a story. And how does that sort of shape what you think is a story and that might be worth pitching to reporters?
Well, it's a two-way street because we have the credibility, we have the market intelligence, and you guys have been able to use us as a trusted resource. And
Yeah.
by the same token, if we're working on these market intelligence reports, we can also come to you all as we're developing each new research report to say, are
Yeah.
we missing anything? Is there anything that you're digging into where you don't have credible information? So
Okay.
it is a two-way street and it's a relationship. So if we pitched you every day with AI generated pitches, you
Yeah,
wouldn't come to any of them, understandably.
that's true. It's
But
it's
if
true.
we're working, I mean, we work with Katie Mertz and she's phenomenal. She has
Uh-huh.
relationships with everyone in automotive. And so you all
Yes.
know that if Katie's going to bring you something, it's
Yes.
going to be relevant, it's going to be credible. And so really it's about the relationships and the data, making sure that both of them are maintained and strong.
Yeah, yeah, and we should mention that Katie, like myself, have worked on both sides of the street. Katie was a wonderful reporter in her time doing that, and we actually worked together at Chrysler during one of its many iterations. I forget what the name was then. It was Daimler Chrysler or Fiat Chrysler, one of those. But it does help too when you have a journalist that's also your PR person because they come at it from a different way. Uh, Okay, so Robin, what should marketers be looking forward to coming up through 2027 and beyond?
I think by 2027, we'll be stop asking whether or not content was created by AI. We'll be asking if we can trust it. So the brands that are going to invest in the expertise, the real customer relationships, and credible voices are going to stand out. Technology will become the expectation. Trust will become the differentiator.
Sure, sure. So did we answer the question? Why credibility is marketing's new competitive advantage, or is there a way to sort of tie it up into one or two little sentences?
I think we summed it up, but I would say just to keep it a little bit more succinct, authenticity becomes more valuable when everyone has access to the same technology. And we
Yeah.
do right now. So it's increasingly important. And I would also say AI is not going to replace marketers, it's going to replace marketers who don't learn AI.
Hmm. AI, right? It's actually, we wish AI would be uh, a little closer to the other AI, actual intelligence, which we don't get nearly enough of. Well, we teased the folks at the top about your the Parton part of your name, and everyone can only guess what that relationship is. So, could you could you solve the mystery for everybody?
Sure, absolutely. So I always joke we're in the South, we're all related, which is, I can joke about
Yeah,
it, not everyone can.
yeah.
Um, I'm told we're distantly related. She is someone who I have a huge amount of respect for. My dad was a Parton, so on the Parton side, he had over
Right.
90 first cousins.
Wow.
So significant. So I've never met her. I would love to meet her, but I know a lot of the
Yeah,
work she does, I have a huge amount of respect for. And then
sure.
also how she's maintained her personal brand. So
Oh, yeah.
she was making business choices 30 and 40 years ago that were unheard of, especially honestly as a Southern female. So for
Yeah,
her to keep all of her music rights and reject offers from some of the most known in the business was
yeah,
incredibly um, it required a lot of foresight.
yeah,
And so it was incredibly thoughtful and smart. So I have a huge amount of respect for her,
sure.
and everyone in East Tennessee and the entire world loves her.
Yeah, yeah, she is an amazing one. I wonder if she uses AI. She probably, I'm sure if she uses it, she's using it in a very intelligent way. But she's an amazing woman. That's very cool. That's very cool. Well, Robin, it's been great talking to you. I really appreciate your insight into this, and hopefully we'll be running into you and your colleagues out on the beat and getting more of your valuable information in our stories. So thank you so much for being on Tales from the Beat. That's Robin Parton Pate. She's VP of Marketing at the Dave Cantin Group. It's a cool company, and they're helping dealers become very, very successful in their business organization. So thank you all for tuning into this episode of Tales from the Beat. I'm Ed Garsten. I hope you'll comment, subscribe, share, and we'll be back soon with more tales. Take care.